Harihi Om Shanno Mitra Shamvarunah Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnu Rurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Rutham Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam Avatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Namasabhaye. Sanatana Dharma 101. The class continues on April 28, 2024. So far we have seen Vedas are Sarva Pramanam, Apaurushayam. The two ways of interpretation. The general interpretation is no Manushya has done Vedas. There is also another way of interpreting Apaurushayam as these have been done by superior Manushya or Rishis whose intellectual power and then control of senses is far higher than that of common man. So in that case also one can say Apaurushaya. Because these are Apaurushaya in either way, they are blemishless. So whatever said in Vedas, because of the nature of how it emerged, being Apaurushaya, we consider it as a Sarva Pramanam. In other words, gospel for Sanatana Dharma. Vedas are one text, that is according to Darshana Veda, whether it is Advaita Darshana or Visishtadvaita Darshana, the entire corpus of the Vedic text, that is Purva Mimamsha or Uttara Mimamsha, can be considered as one text, or it can be considered as separate text, Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda or Brahma Kanda. But within the Karma Kanda, there are certain portions which are used for paying respects or eulogizing devatas, which are called as upasana parts. So, in some loose sense, these Vedas can be divided into Karma Kanda, which is purely ritualistic in nature, and then being part of rituals, they can also be used as rich, like eulogizing or paying obeisance to devata. They are called as upasana Kanda. And then the last portion of Veda or Vedanta are basically interpolation and extrapolation of the things that are in the Veda, and conversation and dialogues between Guru and Sishya, so that you understand the Brahman superior. Then the relationship between Brahman and Atman. What are the ways to attain him? Only one way in some sampradaya. And then what are the barriers? And after attaining the Supreme, what are your benefits? So these are all the parts described in Veda. Today's class we will see how Vedas talk the same thing. We know that Vedas are divided into Rig Veda, Yajur Veda and Sama Veda, depending upon the structure, depending upon its purpose. And we have already seen that under the instruction of Veda Vyasa, who divided the Vedas, hence the name Vyasa, but his name is Krishnadvaipayana. So his name is Krishnadvaipayana, but since he did Vibhagam or Vyasam for Vedas, he is known commonly as Vyasa or Veda Vyasa. Unhone Vibhag kiya. Ye Rishi Krishnadvaipayana has done Vibhaga, or made it as an essay, or divided and formed separate essays in English term. So he is known as Veda Vyasa. Under the instruction of Veda Vyasa, one of his disciples, Atharvangirasa Muni, compiled some portions of Rig Veda and then with Yajur Veda and making it as Atharva Veda. So the Veda bears the name based on Atharvangirasa Rishi as Atharva Veda. And then Vyasa delegated the authority to 4 Sishyas to propagate these Vedas. Okay, that much we have seen. Then Vedas are difficult to understand. Vedas are written in the Vedic text form And because there was no written text available those days, they were composed in certain poetical meter and in certain prose structure, which was easy to memorize and then transform from one generation to another. Okay, so that was the reason it was non-written. It is not printed. Only few years, 100 years back, the Vedas started getting printed. But in strict religious sense, people do not want the Vedas to be printed because we will lose the tradition of learning from a guru, Uchcharana, Anu-Uchcharana. But the Vedas are difficult to understand. Vedas are subject to different interpretation. Those interpretations are possible if they do not violate the basic tenets of Dharma. Dharma ko ullangan na karne se you are able to interpret. That's why different interpretations came. Whether it is Bhatta Bhaskara, who was prior to Shayana Bhashya or Vidyaranya Bhashya, Bhatta Bhaskara was there. Bhatta Bhaskara did Bhashya for Yajurveda, whereas Shayana and his group of disciples did Bhashya for Shayana is also sometimes interchangingly used as Vidyaranya. Some say Shayana and his brother Madhava. Whatever it is, so those were done during the beginning of Vijayanagara Empire, Harihara and Bukka's time. So the Bhatta Bhaskara was there prior to Vidyaranya or Shayana. So there's not clear documented evidence whether it is Vidyaranya or Shayana. But generally people in the tradition interchangingly use Vidyaranya and Shayana. So the famous Bhashya is known as Shayana Bhashya. He and his disciples did the Bhashya for the entire corpus of Veda, Rig Veda and Yajurveda. And you don't have to do separate Bhashya for Samaveda because the text for Samaveda is Rig Veda. This much we have seen. But one thing we said is Vedas speak the same truth. Whether it is Rig Veda or Yajurveda, only the way it is different. In addition, certain portions may vary, but there are, interestingly, the Vedas were one form. These were one collection prior to the Krishna Dvaipayana in the Dwapara Yuga. Each Yuga there will be different Vyasas. So this Vyasa, what we are seeing is during the end of Dwapara Yuga and the beginning of Kali Yuga, this Vyasa is known as Krishna Dvaipayana. He did the Vibhaga. So prior to him, all the Veda were a single corpus. That is what we have to see. How could we see interesting aspects of Veda? Transition of Vedas to Ithihasa is today's class. So what did we say? Vedas are difficult to understand. So you have to tell Vedas in a way people in our generation could understand, or in Kali Yuga can understand, or in Dwapara Yuga can understand, or even in Treta Yuga can understand. So that's the reason the same dharma or the same basic tenets of rituals, the same basic tenets of living well, the same basic tenets of dharma and following dharma are described or elaborated in a story form in Ithihasas and Puranas. So Ithihasas have more value or more authenticity than Puranas because Ithihasas, Ithihasas, Iva Ithihasa. This is how it happened. So these are the authors of these Ithihasas were actually living when the actually happened when the incidents took place. Ithihasas. This is how it happened. So these were all commentaries. These were all contemporaneous commentaries of the incidents that happened. So the writers, whereas Vedas do not have writers, whereas Ithihasas and Puranas have writers, the Ithihasas takes more authenticity. Both are authenticated, but Ithihasas take preponderance because how these were seen and written. When the incidents took place, the authors were living. So these were basically live commentary. The live commentaries of incidents that happened. What were these incidents? These incidents were taking place to propagate dharma. Ithihasa iti Ithihasa. So Valmiki Ramayanam is a straight Ithihasa. And the next comes Mahabharata. In Valmiki Ramayanam itself says, this Ramayanam is nothing but the explanation or commentary of Vedas. Veda Upabrahmanartham. Okay, now we are going to transition. So far we have studied Vedas and we understood little bit briefly on Upanishad. So that is the Vedic stage. So Vedas were basically giving you ideas on rituals. Then the understanding of Vedas and interpretations of Vedas came from rishis, which are known as Smritis, Apastamba Smriti, Vasishta Smriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Bodhayana Smriti, and so much, and sutras. So how you use these Vedic mantras to rituals, those are known as sutras, and predominantly they are Ashvalayana Sutra, and then Bodhayana Sutra, Apastamba Sutra. In Yajurveda, Apastamba Sutra is majority these days. Bodhayana Sutra is also there. Likewise, the how to interpret the Vedic mantras to be used for rituals are given by the rishis. And then the way of living were also given by rishis, which are known as smritis. Of all those smritis, Manusmriti takes greater value and greater respect. Okay, so we have studied up to this Vedas. Later portion of Vedas are known as Vedantas or Upanishads, which is total understanding of Brahman. And then Smritis. Then came, even Smritis people were not able to understand well. So came Ithihasas and Puranas. Of Ithihasas and Puranas, Ithihasas are Sreshtam. How can you say that Ithihasas are Sreshtam? Because Ithihasas explain the Vedas as if it's being explained between a wife and a husband. Kanta Samhita. Ithihasas are known as Kanta Samhitas, whereas Vedas are known as Prabhu Samhitas. Vedas are dictums from Raja. These are rules from Raja. It is very difficult to interpret and it is also very difficult to follow. And if you do not follow, you are going to get some kind of a punishment. So that is like Veda. So it scared people. As the ages went by, so many things occupied people, so they were not able to strictly live in according to Veda. So people got scared. So that is known as Prabhu Samhita. And then the Smritis and then the Rishi Sutras are known as Suhrit Samhita. They are like friends discussion, which is better than Prabhu Samhita. But still, sometimes you depend on friends, sometimes you don't depend on friends, sometimes friends are good, sometimes you may not be able to trust friends, but we always trust Rishi Vakya. That's a different story. So, these Smritis are known as Suhrit Samhita. But then whatever said in Veda, it is like Draksha Pakamiva, like taking Draksha, not like Narikela Pakam, not like Kadali Palapakam. So we can also use some similes. So the Vedas are Prabhu Samhita and they are like Narikela Pakam. They are like coconut. So you have to break open the outer portion of the coconut, then cut the shell, then you have to make it into small pieces. So it takes time, but at the end, what you eat is always good, no doubt about it. But you have to take this kind of steps. So Vedas are Prabhu Samhita and their structure is like Narikelam. And then the Suhrit Samhitas are Smritis and Sutras of Rishis. They took these Vedic parts and then they tried to explain. Those are known as Smriti. How did they do that? They did it by interpolation, through their Manana Sheelam or through their discussion or through their supernatural vision. So that is known as Smriti Smarakam. So they were able to absorb in their mind and then transfer from one generation to another. So those are like Kadali Palam. But still you need to peel the outer portion. Then what you eat inside is good. Whereas all those said in Shruti and those said in Smritis, they were given in an easily understandable form, like Katha, like stories, like drama. That is known as Draksha Pakam. But we have to understand what Draksha we are eating is seedless grapes. Take it like that. So these Ithihasas and Puranas are like seedless grapes, draksha pakam iva. But they are only telling what Vedas said, but they told in a way where it is easy for us to understand, and also they are told in a way that it is able to capture our attention. So you take draksha pal and then put it in your tongue, automatically it goes inside. You don't have to do anything. It dissolves on its own, and we are only talking about seedless grapes. So don't question what if there is hey boho, what is if they have seeds? Understand that these are seedless grapes. So the rishis did parisrama so that we don't even have to spit the seeds. So they gave it to you in a seedless draksha pakamiva. Okay, so we understood this. The difference. Who said this? This was said by the author of Prataparudriyam. The writer of Prataparudriyam said, although he was writing a kavya, before writing a kavya, he gives characterization of kavya and compares that with Veda. Prabhu Samhita Veda. Smritis are Suhrit Samhita. And these Ithihasas are like Kanta Samhita. But they all tell the same thing. They all declare the same truth. There is no doubt about it. So we are transitioning from Vedas to Ithihasas. So the civilization has evolved. People were living according to Veda, and the rishis and the writers who are living were seeing that whatever the tenets that is given in Vedas, the society was following. So for the benefit of the future generation, these rishis started penning this as stories. But these are true stories, Satya, because these rishis or the writers have seen this happening. So Vyasa was living when Mahabharatam happened. Valmiki was living when Mahabharatam was happened. Sanjaya was seeing things that is happening on 18 days in Kurukshetra Por. So he was basically relaying the commentary to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamakav pandavas chaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra asked, Dhritarashtra uvacha. So Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya, who was seeing. In those days people had that kind of a vision, that kind of a dharana sila. So they were able to do this. Let's not go and nitpick things. Assume that they were able to see things because God's mercy. And Sanjaya was relaying what is happened. So he finishes, Sanjaya finishes. Yatra yogeswara krishno, yatra partho dhanurdaraha, tatra srir vijayo. So wherever there is Lord Krishna, there will be Vijayam. So Bhagavad Gita finishes like that. It starts with Dhritarashtra asking question to the commentator who was Sanjaya, and Sanjaya finishes. So Lord Krishna was on the side of Pandavas. So Vijayan got Vijayam. So Mahabharata itself was named by Vyasa as Jayam. So likewise, direct relaying or commentary was happening. So this gets more authenticity. Even though Puranas are good, but Purana writers were not living when actual incidents or stories took place. Pura apinavam. Somewhere it happened. The supreme nature of the supreme, the nature of Vishnu. Who is supreme? Vishnu is supreme. Padma Purana, Brahmanda Purana, Skanda Purana. These all happened many yuga before the authors like Vyasa. Vyasa was in Dwapara Yuga and some portion of Kali Yuga. Whereas the Skand, the Utpatti of Skand happened prior to the Ramayana days. Understand this. So let's take an example. How do we know that the Utpatti of Skand, Gangeya, Ganga's Putra, Gangeya happened when Skand, Kartikeya's Jananam happened prior to the time when Vyasa was living. But Skanda Purana was written by Vyasa. So Vyasa's gurus would have learned from their gurus, and then Vyasa wrote it. So how do we know that Skanda, the existence of Skanda was there? Because Vishwamitra tells to Rama and Lakshmana, when he was taking after Tataka Vada, he was walking them along the Sarayu banks and along the Ganges tributary and distributary banks to Mithila. He was reciting the story of Ganga Utpatti, Gangotpatti, Skanda Puran. So these happened many yuga because Vyasa lived during Dwapara Yuga. But Skanda Purana was mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana, which happened in Treta Yuga. So Skanda Purana was existing before. So Pura api navam. But still they are useful. But if you are present, so in terms of historical text, how do you take an historical text? You take an historical text to be more authentic if there are any epigraphies, if there are any stone inscriptions, or if there are any copper inscriptions, or if there are written text done, most importantly by a contemporary writer. So Valmiki was living when Rama was going to the exile. How do you know that? In Ramayana itself, Rama visited Valmiki ashramam while he was going towards Nasik, while he was going to Panchavati. And Valmiki taught Ramayan, Patye Geye cha Maduram, Sarvasruti Manogaram. So Valmiki taught Ramayan to Lavakushu. That comes in Uttarakhanda. Leave that. But there is documentation that after he visited Agastya, Sharabanga, Bharadwaja, Valmiki's ashram was visited by Rama. So Valmiki was living when Ramayana happened. So it is a contemporaneous literature. So Ithihasa is taking preponderance to Purana. Both are good. Nobody is questioning. So, but what Vedas said, Ithihasas said it in a way we understand. Most importantly, they dramatized. But these dramatized dramas happened true. Satyam. That's what we have to see. Because people's memory power changed, people understanding changed. When things came from one yuga to agu, people could distort it. So in order to avoid all these, Ithihasas came. Ithihasas gave documented evidence about how a person was living, particularly the hero was living according to Veda, and what all the rituals he did according to Veda. So Veda said do Rajasuya Yaga, Veda said do Aswamedha Yaga, but it is said that it is said that Rama did many Aswamedha Yaga. That comes in Yuddha Kanda, later portion. But we all know that Dasaratha did Aswamedha Yaga, and as part of Aswamedha Yaga, he requested Rishyasringa Muni, who is the son-in-law of Janaka in one way. He requested Rishyasringa Muni to do Putrakana Ishti. So it tells that whatever the samskaras prescribed in Veda, Srautakarya, Rama and his forefathers of Rama did. How do we know that? Kalidasa in Kumara Sambhava, Kalidasa in Raghuvamsa, he begins by narrating the story of Dilipa and Sudikshna. Under the rule of Dilipa, there were always smokes everywhere. It is not a fire hazard. There were smokes from heaven. So when Dilipa was going outside Ayodhya towards the hermitage of Vasishtha, he recognizes everywhere people were doing Agnihotram. People were herding cows so that they get the pious milk from the cow to do Agnihotram and Agnisantanam and Upasanam. So we clearly know that the Rajas of Raghuvamsha were living according to the tenets of Vedas. So what Vedas said, you have to follow Satya. We know that Ramayana is about Rama who followed Satya. And you also have to follow certain rituals to be disciplined, which we know from the life of Dilipa, then Raghu, then Aja, then Dasaratha, Rama and Lavakusha. So we know that. So that is how the stories are. And similarly, in Mahabharata, if you take Krishna's daily ritual, it is always said that he did Sandhya Vandan, Trikal Sandhya Vandan on time, and he also did Upasana. If he is in one Pattamahishi's house, he will do Upasana there. If somebody wants to see Krishna doing Upasana at the same time, because he is supreme, he is Lord. So he was able to be present in all the 16,100 Mahishis. And at the same time, he will be doing Sandhya Vandan. Sandhya mein Vandan, Devatanko Vandan, Voi Chana mein concurrently he will be doing. So these are all documented. Even Duryodhana, who is considered to be an evil person, He never missed any of his Vedic karma. So that much was there. So even Ravana, in Ramayana, Ravana, he is a Pulasya Kulanandana. So he is son of Pulasya Maharishi, Pulasya. So he was very learned in Samaveda. That is the reason he pleased Rudra Bhagavan, who granted him such boons. So we always see that the Vedic tenets were followed because that was a supreme yuga and people followed the rituals. So now we have to see, what did I say? Vedas, whether it is Rig Veda or Yajur Veda or Sama Veda or Atharva Veda, there are some unifying portions. There are certain portions which tell how you have to lead the life, and those are present in all the Vedas. That's what we need to see. So what did I say? So Vedas are universal. Prior to Krishna Dvaipayana, the Vedas were single bundle. But because with the Kala Bheda, because with the way the Yuga transformed, Vyasa was kind enough to divide, Vibhag karke humko diya. But we need to see that whatever is said in Yajurveda is more or less said in Rig Veda, more or less said in Samaveda. That is what we want to see today. And one example, this is very interesting example we want to do today. So now I am going to show two things. One, how Vedic knowledge or Vedic rituals are carried in the Ithihasic time frame or Puranic time frame. That's part B. Part A is to say that Vedas were universal and were unified. So I have to give you an example. That means I need to show you some similarity between Rig Veda and Yajur Veda. That is what I need to show you today. Can we do that? If we could prove that the portions what are available in Rig Veda, not all, it cannot be 100% matching. At least some small portions of mantras which are there in Rig Veda are there in Yajur Veda. That means whatever in essence, whatever the Rig Veda tells or whatever the Yajur Veda tells, more or less same. So we are using the same text because we cannot use multiple texts and call gospel. We have to prove Veda is unified text prior to Veda Vyasa, and for Sanatana Dharma this is the Pramanam, Sarva Pramanam, superior Pramanam or gospel. That means we can have only one text. So Vedas reveal the same thing. That is the one important message I want to tell you today. Okay. Now, Rig Veda is the Prathama Veda, and people say this is the earliest document text in the whole world, Rig Veda. Rig Veda is divided into 8 ashtakas or 10 mandalas, about 10,000 rigs are mantra. Rig Veda finishes by paying obeisance to Agni, and also it pays obeisance to a devata called Sajnana. Sajnana means Jnana. So it starts by paying obeisance to Agni. Agram Nayati iti Agni. The one, the devata or the supreme which pulls us forward towards knowledge. And it ends by praying obeisance to Agni. So it forms a 360 degree. Not only Agni, by praying Agni you are able to get superior knowledge known as Sanjnanam. So the Rig Veda ends like that. How does the Rig Veda ends? Sangachatvam, Samvadhatvam, Samvomanamsi Janatam, Deva Bhagam Yatha Purve Sanjanana Upasate Samano Mantra Samiti Samani Samanam Manas Sahachittamesham Samanam Mantramabhi Mantrayeva Samanena O Avishajuhomi. So assume why I am taking is Sangachatvam Samvo Madhatum. Hey people, let's pray our obeisance to Agni and then let's pray our obeisance to the greater knowledge. Sangachatvam, let us all go in unison. See, Veda is not simply praying something. Veda tells the way of life. So this last Varga or the last Sukta or the last portion of Rig Veda is a great text, is an epitome of art of living. It says, hey Manushya, let's pray towards this Devata and let us all do it together. Samgachatvam, let's go together. Sangachatvam, samvadatvam, let us speak with same mind. Samvo manamsija, let us all be united in our thoughts. How beautiful it is. Let's work towards the peace of the world. Let's do things together. Let's talk the same thing for the benefit of the mankind. Sangachatvam, samvada means to speak. Gacha means to go. Manamsi, let's all be in unison in mind. Let's think good thing. Let's all work towards good thing. Samvo manamsi janatam, ye log, janapad me, ye people living in grama, ye people living in city. Let's all do this in unison. This you should remember. Samano mantra samitihi deva bhagam. Then how do we do that? It gives an example. Like, let us all do things with one mind, but let's all contribute. Let Hema Mehtaji do one thing. Let Martanji one thing. Let Ram do one thing. But all these things done by these people should be united towards common goal. Towards Krinvantu Aryam. Let's do good things for the benefit of the mankind, but everything cannot be done by everybody. So let us all contribute. Cooperation it tells. And it gives you an example. Like Devatas, we call Agni one time, we call Varuna one time, we call Indra one time. They all wait in queue and then take only their offerings. They don't come and trespass in somebody's territory. But collectively, when all these devatas are happy, you are going to be blessed with bounty. Deva bhagam yata purve. Like each devata only come and take their offerings. The offering you make to Agni, it will not be taken by the offering you make it to Vishwadeva. So, Deva bhagam yata purve sanjanana upasate. When you are doing upasana, you offer offerings to a particular devata by invoking them. E Subramanya Agacha. So any Vedic ritual will be started when Vota will invite the Udgata. Udgata means the Samavedic Pandit. He will come and recite and please the devata. E Subramanya Agacha. Oh, E devata, you come. Likewise, you invoke these devatas and they wait in queue and take their offerings. So they take their offerings and then collectively they bless. Deva bhagam yata purve sanjanana upasate. So, likewise, everybody contributes. So, when blessing comes, all these devatas contribute, but they take only their offerings. Likewise, you do good things collectively for the benefit of mankind. This is the last portion of Rig Veda. Okay. Now, what did I say? The class has to show you that whatever, not all, it is not 100% match. You don't have to. But whatever is the essence, what is the essence of Rig Veda? You have to live in harmony, do things collectively for the benefit of mankind. This is the last portion. This is the punchline. End, conclusion. So we are only interested in seeing the conclusion of a cinema, right? That's what people are interested. If a cinema drags, you don't care. What is the conclusion? What is the last part of an act? The act may have eight acts. A drama can have 7 acts. A drama can have 10 acts. But you are only interested in what is the outcome, what is the conclusion of a movie, what is the conclusion of a drama. So the conclusion of a Rig Veda is telling people, work together with one mind, with one good thought for the benefit of the mankind. How beautiful is Veda? That's what I said. Vedas are not simply memorizing, rote learning. There is a meaning for everything. Okay. Now, this is the essence of Rig Veda. Let's say that. Now, I need to show you. God has already done it. I am only an instrument. So, I am to Manda Buddhi. But still, I am trying to best. So, the same thing, the same portion is in Yajurveda Brahmana Bhaga. Sangachadvam. Whereas the swara is different. Gum swara is there in Yajurveda, whereas the gum swara is not there in Rig Veda. Leave that swara. Leave the swara aside. Sangachatagum samvadatvam. Whereas in Rig Veda, you pronounce sangachatvam. That's all. Whereas in Yajurveda, because the swara difference is there, Sangachvatvagum, Samvadatvam, Samvomana Gumsi. I said that this Gumsi is the trademark, Gums. These are all the trademarks for Yajurveda. So swara may have Veda, but the words are same, meaning is same. Samvomana Gumsi Janatam. This comes in the Brahmana Bhaga, Traitriya Brahmanam, the same phrases. So only swara is difference. Deva bhagam yata purve sanjanana upasata samano mantra samiti samani samanam manas sahachittamesham samanam keto abhisagum. So then the variation comes. But what is the important portion of Rigveda is Sangachatvam, Samvadatvam, Samvo Manamsi Janatam. Deva Bhagam Yata Purve Sanjanana Upasate. That is the crux of Rigveda for the well-being. The same phrases with swara alteration come in the Taitriya Brahmanam. So that indicates that Vedas tell the same thing. Vedas tell for the call for the unity, call for the well-being of the mankind, so that we are able to please the respective devatas. We proved. Now, what Vedas say, we need to show that it is possible to live. Now come to Ithihasic period. So Ithihasas predominantly started in Treta Yuga and then Mahabharata. There are only two Ithihasas. Although there is saying Shiva Ithihasa is there, my knowledge is very limited. So people also take that there is a Shiva Ithihasa also is there. So Ramayana, Mahabharata and one more Ithihasa, Shiva Ithihasa is there, but my knowledge is very limited. So I don't want to go there. But let's say that Ramayana is in Treta Yuga and then Mahabharata is in Kali Yuga. Now, what Vedas said, let's take an example. What is the basic core of Ramayana? Basic core of Ramayana is Rama made sure Dasaratha lived up to its words. Satyam. So Ramayana is basically based on Satya Paripalanam. So Dasaratha gave two boons, two varas to Kaikeyi. He forgot about it. But he had already given, so he needs to make sure he gives those two boons back to Kaikeyi. So that way he maintains Satya. He becomes Satya Purusha. So the story revolves around it. So what does Veda say? Satyam Param Paragum Satyagum Satyena na Suvargan Lokachyavante. This is Veda. What did I say? Vedas have to be shown in a dramatic form in Ithihasa so that the meaning of the Vedic verse in true sense is understood. So Vedas to Ithihasas, that is the class. Now, how can you prove that Ithihasas tell what is revealed in Veda? This is the greater question we are asking today. So, Ithihasas are the explanatory text to Vedas. Veda says, Satye Sarvam Pratishtitam Tasmaat Satyam Paramam Vadanthi. Veda simply says, everything rests on Satya, so Satya is important. How do we know that if we stray away from Satya, it is going to give us great trouble? How do you know? If Veda says, Satye Paramam Pratishtitam, Satye Sarvam Pratishtitam, Tasmaat Satyam Paramam Vadanthi, Dharmena papam apanudati. Tasmat dharmam paramam vadanti. What is dharmam? Speaking truth is dharmam. What is dharmam? Dharmam is righteousness. Speaking truth is dharmam. Simple way. But you need to prove that if you stray away from this dharma or if you stray away from speaking truth, you are going to get into trouble. That is what is happening in the story of Dasaratha. So Dasaratha was caught into the Putra Vatsalyam thing. He was so affectionate to Rama. So he forgot that he gave two vows, two boons to Kaikeyi. And when Kaikeyi asked back the two boons, he tries to give excuse so that he wants to convince Kaikeyi so that he doesn't have to fulfill the two boons given to Kaikeyi. That is adharma. according to the Veda, Sathyam Paramam Vadanthi. You have to live by Satya. Whereas, where is the Satya here? Because he is trying to convince Kaikeyi so that she takes the vows back. No, you have to live by that. That is the story. And that is what happens in Ramayana. So, Kaikeyi, even though her act is evil, what does she do? She tries to make sure that Dasaratha lives up to his words. So, what did I say? The Veda says, Satye Paramam Prat. Watch this. Veda clearly says in Taitriya Bhaga, Satye Paramam Pratishtam Tasmaat Satyam Paramam Vadanthi. In the form of story, in the form of discussion between Kaikeyi and Dasaratha, Kaikeyi makes sure, even though her act is evil, she makes sure Dasaratha get back to his sense so that he gives the two vows, whatever the two vows may be, two boons to Kaikeyi, so that Dasaratha lives up to his word. Okay, this Kaikeyi says, Ahuhu Satyam hi Paramam Dharma Dharma Vido Jana. The same thing. What does Veda say? Satyam Satye Paramam Pratishtitam Tasmaat Satyam Paramam Vadanthi. Veda says. Valmiki also uses the same words as if said by Kaikeyi to make sure the two characters, Dasaratha and Kaikeyi, as form of conversation between them, they make sure that Dasaratha lives according to the scriptures and then he executes the two boons given to Kaikeyi. That Valmiki clearly says, Ahuhu Satyam hi Paramam Dharma Dharma Vido Jana. Kaikeyi says, all the learned people say, Satyam hi Paramam Dharma. Compare that with Veda words. Satye Paramam Pratishtam Tasmaat Satyam Paramam Vadanthi. What did I say? Ithihasas are explanation to the scriptures. In this case, Valmiki uses more or less the same phrase as if in the Veda and then enacts that in the form of dramatic conversation between Kaikeyi and Dasaratha. Then, what did I say? You have to make, okay, so Kaikeyi insisted Dasaratha to keep his words. Okay, but then what Valmiki does? Valmiki gives some example. Valmiki gives 3 examples to show that you have to go to such an extent to protect your word, to protect Satyam. So he gives the example of Shibi Chakravarti, who gave his flesh to satisfy the hawk. So there was a fight between pigeon and a hawk or an eagle. Then the eagle said, this pigeon is my food. But this Shibi Chakravarti, who was the king of the Shaibya Desa, was so kind-hearted that he could not see that kapota being eaten by the hawk or the eagle. So he said, then the eagle said, the kapota has already made sure that kapota will become the food to me. So, if you protect this kapota, you will make this kapota to be a liar. So, what are you going to do? The hawk asked the Shibi Chakravarti. Shibi Chakravarti said, I know you want food. I am going to give you my flesh so that you are not starving and at the same time I am able to protect the kapota. So, Kaikeyi makes sure Dasaratha understands the meaning of the Vedic verse so that he lives according to the Dharma preached by Veda by giving example. What did I say? Upabrahmanartameva Ithihasa Puranam. So, Shibi Chakravarti example, so that Dasaratha immediately understands, oh, even if you have to give your life, you cannot go back on your words. Satyam Vada. Whereas Veda dictates, what did I say? Vedas are like the Raja's rule. Veda simply says Satyam Vada. Dharmanchara. That's all. It doesn't tell how to do Satyam Vada. How can one say Satyam all the time? How can one be living according to Dharma all the time? So Ramayana explains as a way of conversation between Kaikeyi and Dasaratha to make sure Dasaratha never goes back on his words. And there again, Valmiki makes it so easy for us to understand this complicated dharma. What is dharma? Satyam. And how can I be always saying Satya? He gives three examples. One is the example of Shibi Chakravarti of Shaibhya Desa, and the second one is a Raja Rishi called Alarka. So the Alarka was ruling a kingdom like Janaka, and there was a Vedic Pandit. And the Vedic Pandit lost his eyes. So this Vedic Pandit goes to the Alarka Rajarishi and tells, I am going to ask you something, will you give me what I ask? But this Alarka said, yes, Pandit, whatever you ask, I will give you. So he had already given his words without knowing what this Vedic Pandit is going to ask. Alarka is a king. The earlier example was Samvada between Kaikeyi and Dasaratha. This is also Samvada between Kaikeyi and Dasaratha. The example is now the conversation between a Vedic Pandit and a Raja Rishi called Alarka. Then suddenly, this Vedic Pandit asked, I don't have my eyesight, so I want my eyesight. You said you will give me whatever I ask. I am asking for my eyesight. Then he said, immediately he took the knife and then plucked both his eyes and gave it to the Vedic Brahmin. So he kept his word. So Satyasandh ban gaya. Wo Alarka Rajarishi Satyasandh ban gaya. Then Kaikeyi gives one more. Hey Dasaratha, look at Shaibhya Desh Raj. Look at Alarka. Now I am going to give you a common understanding. So the sea, no matter how the waves are, whether it is a Paurnamasi day or it is Darshana day, it doesn't cross its boundary. Have you ever seen coming and very rarely, tsunami, you may ask tsunami happens, that is very rarely. But in all the time, the sea stays within its boundary. So the seas have given words to the Devata that it will not breach its boundary, and for yuga after yuga after yuga, even though there is flood in Krishna, there is flood in Godavari, there is flood in Ganges, waters pour into the sea, but sea doesn't change its nature. Very rarely. So seas and oceans keep their promise by remaining within their boundary. Hey Dasaratha, you have seen this. You are ruling the entire world surrounded by Sapta Samudra. You are seeing this on a daily basis. So you are seeing pratyaksha, how seas and oceans behave. You have seen how your forefathers like Shaibhya Desh Raj, like Alarka Maharaja kept their word. So live according to Dharma. What is Dharma? In this case, living according to what you have said, given word to people. That is known as Satya. And Dasaratha himself says, Satyena lokan jayati deenan danena cha. When he talks about Rama, to Kaikeyi, to convince her to take back her boon, he says, Satyena lokan jayati, deenena danena deenan. So for those people who are meager, Rama is benevolent. Rama gives so much in bounty. Perhaps in Rigved, there is one particular sukta in Prathama Kand. There is one full sukta that talks about generosity and benevolence. And that one rik says, if a person who is a miser and stingy, if he is not parting his food to somebody, he will not have any friends and he will be isolated. Veda goes to such an extent to curse a person. If you are not parting your food to others and you are becoming apagnanto aranvaha. So if worst dick, so curse those people who are miser. And in the Prathama Kanda itself, Veda says, if a person is eating everything to himself, not sharing his food, he will be without any friends. He will be isolated. So Rama was known. Rama let his palace open for 14 years. When he is going to Dandakaranya, he says, let my palace doors be open. And my mother Kaushalya, who brought so much wealth from her parents' place, will keep on replenishing this exchequer. So whoever wants to take anything from my palace, my doors are open. For 14 years you can come, enjoy the pleasures. Deenan danena cha satyena lokan jayati. That is the reason. That is the reason he says, I am going to send you to that loka. When Jatayu fell down, He did Brahmameda Samskara for Jatayu, and you said you will go to the heaven where people who have done that Agnihotra will go. I tell you to go. But Rama was portrayed by Valmiki as a human being. Then how can a human being send a bird, Tiryak, or a bird to a heaven? Rama did that because he was Satyasandha. Then Lakshmana vouches for it. If my brother is Satyasandha, let this burn, because Lakshmana kills Indrajit, Meghanath. So when he does that, Yadiva Ramaha Satyasandha. If Rama lived by his words, let this Shara go and take the life of Meghanath. It did. So you see, the importance of Satya is revealed in the story of Jatayu Moksha, is revealed in the death of Meghanath by Lakshmana. So Veda only gave it as a ruling, Satyam Vada. Satye sarvam pratishtitam tasmat Satyam Paramam Vadanthi. But then the examples, the conversation between, in Ayodhya Kanda, the conversation between Kaikeyi and Dasaratha, where even though Kaikeyi is doing an evil act, she preaches Dharma. She preaches Dharma. Don't be a papi, but going back on your words. Take the example of Shibi Chakravarti. Take the example of Rajarishi Alarka. Worst comes what, take the example of the things which you see on a daily basis, how seas and oceans don't cross the boundary. Satyena lokan jayati. What did I say? Raja Samhita is given as a drama, as if a conversation between a husband and wife. Kanta Samhita yaya. So, we have proven that Vedas reveal the basic tenet. Basic tenet is Dharma. Dharayati iti Dharma. In one case, in a simple sense, how do you know what is Dharma? Just be truthful. And to explain truth is important. Ramayana came. Ramayana is a Ithihasa which preaches what you should do. So that is why it takes preponderance. Whereas Mahabharata is a Ithihasa which preaches what you should not do. So the positive spin is given in Ramayana, negative thing is given in Mahabharata. Ramayana tells by the acts of the Supreme or the hero Rama what you should do. Ramaha dhvir na abhibhashate. So when Kaikeyi tells, hey Rama, go, she didn't say, I am telling you go. She says, hey Rama, Rajan, my husband, your father, Chakravarti told you to leave. Pravrajata iti. So, your father told you to leave for 14 years in exile. But Rama says, why Hema, why are you telling? My father said, even if you told, hey Ram, go to forest, I will go because I will not twist my tongue. Ramaha dhvir na abhibhashate. When I give my word, I will stick to it. See, so Satyam Vada is a simple phrase. It is easy. But to do what it is said is difficult, particularly Satyam, to speak the truth and maintain the truth. So whole text, Ramayana, came to prove those verses in Vedas. Similarly, Yudhishthira could simply say, okay, I kept my wife, I kept my brothers in the Dhyuta. But then Yudhishthira had Krishna at his side. He could have said, hey Krishna, go and kill these Duryodhanadis. Krishna would have done it. But he suffered so much. He lost his entire relatives. Very few people were left after the Mahabharata Yuddha to maintain, because Dharmaraja, Yudhishthira gave his word to Duryodhana that I have pledged myself, I have pledged my wife, I have pledged my Rajya, I have pledged my brothers. So, you are my boss now. You are my Swami. So, I have to listen to you. So, I am going to the forest. So, Mahabharata also explains the importance of Satya, but in a way, in a different way, to show that you should not do. Rama did good things to protect Satya. Dharmaraja also did things to protect Satya, but it was brought upon himself by doing not good thing, by playing Dhyuta. So Mahabharata preaches what you should not do. Ramayana preaches what you should do. So Vedas were a universal text. Just to make it convenience, Krishna Dvaipayana in Dwapara Yuga did the Vibhagam. And then he split them. But the basic crux of all Vedas are same, which we have given an example from Rigved, last Varga of Rigved and the Brahmana Bhag of Yajurved. And then Satyam Vada is one preaching in Veda as a dictum from a Raja to tell the importance of Satya and how you should protect Satya. The whole Mahabharata with 24,000 slokas came. Similarly, the whole Ramayana with 24,000 slokas came. Sapata Laksha Grantha Bharat, 1,25,000 slokas came for Mahabharata. Just to explain this Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. And then Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Where can you find this? Acharya Devo Bhava? Drona. Karna and Drona. Karna was indebted to Duryodhana. Loyalty. Similarly, Arjuna was indebted to Dronacharya. Acharya Devo Bhava. Atiti. Who is? Vidura did so much Atiti Samskara to Krishna. Atiti Devo Bhava. Even Duryodhana is also known to be so much pleasing to these visitors. So, likewise, only one phrase. It has been blown into big stories as drama. Ithihasas are predominantly drama, live dramas as commentary. So far we have seen Vedas not only tell about eulogies to the god or about rituals, they portray a civilization that flourished. And then the understanding of the Supreme and us is in Vedanta Bhag. And then Ithihasas enact those verses said in those Vedas in the easily decipherable and understanding form as dramas and acts. So, that is the reason Vedas are considered to be Sarva Pramana. And there is even reference to Lord Ram in Rigved. I do not know how many people know. Rigved mein Dasama Mandala mein, the later portion of Rigved says, Pratadushi me pritavan vene prarame charam asure magavastu. Like Rama controlled his senses. Magavastu mane the lust for money. Like Rama was never attached to money. That's why I gave you the example. He opened his entire palatial doors. Similarly, Rama controlled the senses. Likewise, ye people, control your senses. Pradadushi me. And it gives other examples like other devatas like Dushi Maha, Pritavanaha, Venaha, Ramaha, Jaisa. There are some devatas Vedas says like Dushi Maha, Pratavane, Vene, Asuraha, like that. Not the Asuras. It's some devata called Asura. They were all able to control the senses. Like these Rajas, then it gives you example. These Devatas I have proclaimed here, like Rama, Dushimaha, Vanaha, Asuraha, they were all riding on 5 horses and protecting us. What does that 5 horses mean? Pancha Karma Indriya, Pancha Nana Indriya. These people, these heroes like Rama, they were able to control those 5 senses. So Rama even gave up his Padaraksha. After Bharata took the Padaraksha, Rama perhaps walked with his barefoot. But he was such a Sukumara. How was Rama? Tyagaraja says, Alagalalla tagagana aran muni etu pongano. When Rama walks on the bank of Ganges, while Vishwamitra was walking behind, and Rama's curled hairs was floating in the air. when Rama's hair was floating in Kakapaksha Dharam Veeram Sukumaro. So the curly hairs of Rama was floating. Vishwamitra forgot that he was a rishi. He was admiring Rama. Alaga allalata. Alaga mane the curly hairs. Allalata means floating. Gagana. Gagana means in air. Ran Muni. Ran Muni means Raja Muni. Because Vishwamitra was Raja Rishi. Yetu Pongono. What was going on in his mind? Vishwamitra lost his sense. Alakalallalata gagana aharan muni yetu pongano. You see? So, this is how. So, Rama is a personification of beauty, Sukumara. He was like a Sukumara. But then he, to protect Pitruvakya Paripalanartham, to make sure his father Dasaratha lives up to his word, he gave up his kingdom. Even he gave up his wife for 10 months. So, he showed how to live and practice Dharma. So, what Vedas preach? Vedas says, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. Rama practiced. So, Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma Sadhu Satya Parakramaha. Maricha's words. He is an embodiment of Dharma. What is Dharma here? Satyam Vada. His father said, he will give 2 boons to Kaikeyi. He even flinched sometimes so that he doesn't let his son go. But Rama made sure. In Valmiki Ramayana it's not there. But in Guru Granth Sahib, Dashami Granth, when Guru Gobind Singh wrote Ramayana, even in Punjabi Sikh religion, he says, before Rama left for Vana, Rama preaches Dasharatha, hey father, don't go back on your words. I am okay to go for us. So accept what you have given to Kaikeyi. This is Guru Gobind Singh tells that. And that the preachings of Guru Gobind Singh is known as Dashama Granth. There he makes sure that Rama, everybody brings their own acts of Ramayana. There he wants to personify Rama is true embodiment of Dharma. Satya. So, Rama preaches Dasaratha, whereas in Valmiki Ramayana that will not happen because Pitrudevo Bhava. But in Dashama Grantha, in Punjabi, Guru Gobind Singh says, Rama preached Dasaratha so that he will not go back on his words, and Rama told his father that he is prepared to go to forest. So, we have gone up to Ithihasas. Among Ithihasas and Puranas, Ithihasas take preponderance because they are the live commentary. Okay, so we have Vedas or ritualistic guidebooks, talk about civilization, not much, some civilization aspects, and then they preach basic way of living. Sanno mitrasya varunah, shanno bhavatvaryama, shanna indro brihaspatihi, sanno vishnurukramaha, namo brahmane, namaste vayo, tvameva pratyaksham brahmavadisham, rutamavadisham, tanmamavid, tadvaktaramavid, aveen mam, avid vaktaram, om shanti shanti shanti, mangalani santu, shubham.